Reddit is at it again. Did you see this comment? Did you see this post? The dark side of gaming, or the light side of gaming, depending on what side of this debate you fall on. Is it ridiculous or not to have a lot of unplayed games? Let's talk. So the post is based off of a Board Game Geek link that the user found. Commenter arguing that owning 54 unplayed games is a symptom of consumerism run amok, bad purchasing habits. So, again, let's just go straight from the top. Is consumerism, this bad? Has it gone nuts in all sectors? Is it just people with bad spending habits in denial, growing debt? Is it buying stuff that you will never use? And the inhabitation of this toxic mindset in our hobby. It's ridiculous. You should just be playing games, not buying games. It's freaking ridiculous. And games on the shelf don't bring me joy. Games on the table do. This hobby, as we've talked about elsewhere, definitely encourages FOMO and overbuying. We'll talk about this situation in a minute, right? There is a genuine difference between probably collecting and genuinely, right, keyword there, intending to play. Owning anything of this quantity is questionable, right? Whether it's hobby or gamer situation, regardless. On the flip side of things, right? And this is where the vast majority of commenters sort of came out, surprisingly, when you sat down and broke it down, analytically speaking. The majority response was, you know what? People enjoy collecting things. They go on trips and get trinkets. You go and get Steam PC games, for example. As long as it sits comfortably alongside, and this is the key word on this side of the debate, functional life. Who cares what other people are doing, enjoying, or how they are enjoying them? Collecting games, and this is a topic that comes up a bit, collecting games is just as much of a hobby as playing games is. And inherently, is one ultimately better than the other? Why are you judging them based off of their habits? I'm sure we can find something to judge you based off of. This person is happy with their collection, and that's the sole justification that's needed. If it confuses you, wait until you hear about insert other hobby here. Books. I just mentioned other video games. Shoes. Whatever it may be, right? Disposable income. And that's the other key term that gets tossed around here. You have to find other people to play, and that makes games unplayed common. I'm saving them for later. I'm saving them for when I have the right person, group. Board games specifically have more of a friction to use as opposed to a lot of these other hobbies, though, with the rules, the time, the overhead, the other people necessitating, unless you're playing solo. And, a good portion of people in this thread were saying that it's not actually uncommon. Anywhere between 20 to 40% being much more of the norm than the abnormal. Buying games on sale. I mean, we see this across the board. We see this with lots of things. We see this at the supermarket, right? Well, it's buy 5 and get them all for $1. You don't need 5 of them, but it's going to save you money. Deals. Alongside of that, we see more so with the hobby of shipping minimums. How many times have I seen people post about adding something else to their cart to meet the shipping threshold minimum to save money, quote unquote, right? The other big thing that I talk about all the time is crowdfunding, right? Crowdfunding, the GameFound and Kickstarter timelines. You know what? I feel like, this is an untouched upon holy ground, elephant in the room of these timelines that when they come to crowdfunding and by the time you get them, these are purposely farther out. So you feel the need to buy more of them to fill those times so that there is not a time where you are not getting something, but ultimately between the buying, the pre-ordering, and the arriving, many times time, group, taste have all changed. You've lost interest in it by the time it actually arrives at your doorstep and the box is twice as big as you were expecting. And because, like we mentioned, collecting is the hobby, buying is the hobby, shopping is the hobby, not playing. The dopaminergic rush of putting it in your cart and clicking on that is one thing. So are these considered game players, game consumers, hobbyists? Are they all the same? Let's talk about this though, because this dives into the shelf of shame versus shelf of opportunity debate. You know, some people view unplayed games as failures, guilt, or a debt of the hobby. I should play these. Others see them as promise, exploration, and more of an inspiring to get played. I want variety when I want it. Is it just guilt that is socially just conditioned by the hobby, by peers, that some is also rooted in jealousy that some people can afford to do that in the first place? Or is, opportunity just a rebranded excuse to overbuy or hoard? And at what point does hope and desire of variety become hoarding, right? Where is that line? Is there a clear line? If I tell you that this is the smallest room in my house and it's full of board games and they don't extend anywhere else, like, is that too much? Is that too little? It's not impacting my bottom line of my household expenditures whatsoever. These are neatly-ish packaged up so that they don't take up any more outside of this, and everything else in the house is completely normal and, taken care of and well upkept, and my kids are fed and all those sorts of things. Is that a problem? Is this a problem? Right? And going back to the collecting versus playing, right? This is potentially, realistically, two separate hobbies, because collectors, if you're collecting, you enjoy hunting for deals, tracking down grail games, organizing them, displaying them, curating them. And I think that happens heavily on the content creator side of things. When I see videos that are commonly out there of saying, games I got rid of, or the nicest shelves with the lights and the illumination behind them, how many of those games do you recognize? How many of those games are the biggest of the big? I mean, I do it a little bit behind me, but most of these games are just games I freaking love. But a lot of that behind it is, paid content, or it's been advertised there, or it's the biggest name of the latest release. I mean, so that it attracts eyes in that way. But playing, on the other side, right? You enjoy the learning, the teaching, the evolution of the style, the strategizing, the replaying, which is a taboo word, I feel like nowadays. And, most importantly to me with a lot of these, which is why I always say I play to enjoy, not to win. I like winning, don't get me wrong, but it's the social interaction. It's the interaction and the dynamic at the table with those around me in that way, whether that is my 5-year-old playing Mario Memory or people my age playing insert heavy game here, whatever you'd like in that regard. I guess that brings up a bigger question of, is this industry? Because again, let's focus not just on, it's the person buying its fault. The industry, is it built more now for collectors rather than players? I'd say so. But, it doesn't explain as well why you have people, overbuying expensive things that they may never use, right? And that goes back to what I just said about the industry. How is the industry set up? Because the main aspect of this is that value is perceived at purchase. What the industry and crowdfunding, especially, let's take a look at the Black Friday sales, things like that, right? Value perceived at the purchase is more important than the value extracted through play. Look at any crowdfunding page. It tells you how much you're saving. It lists you the components and the deluxifications that it could cost you at a later date, not how much you're going to be able to play it. When did you see a diagram of how easy it is to play on a crowdfunding page? I don't care who you are. Very, very seldom. And this is the whole idea behind the marketing of chasing the idea of the fun more than the reality of it on the table, right? Bargaining, high sales deals, and exclusives that value is predicated on. And it's why many backers, gamers at this point, treat it as more of a speculative entertainment investment, if you will, rather than just a game. FOMO is still heavily utilized as a marketing strategy in this way. They condition buyers now to think if I don't buy it, I'll never get it. If I don't buy it, it won't have the cool stuff. Pre-buzz hype and hype trains encourage impulse buying on Kickstarter, which is why I do that. Maybe you shouldn't buy this at retail this month. Maybe you shouldn't buy this on crowdfunding this month. And every single time I get people yelling at me saying, you can't talk about games like this. You are a bad influence on this hobby, telling people that they shouldn't buy things every time. And I try not to feed into it all the time, but I definitely talk about some of the latest and the greatest. But that's why I also talk about stuff in the past and where is it now. I mean, this is debatable, right? Our hobby culture, as I just said, encourages consumption as your potential identity, as we are seeing this being separated out from playing in the first place. Collecting can be comfortable, controlling, and a coping mechanism. And joy through ownership is a real psychological effect that we have going on as a whole. So is it wrong to derive happiness from owning rather than using in this way? From a philosophical standpoint, minimalists will say own less, use what you got, right? That's the main debate of this thing in the first place. Collectors say own more, curate what inspires you and brings you joy. Well, neither are objectively, because this is subjective, neither are objectively correct. But they definitely clash, and you know which side of this argument the board game community leans. I mean, that's already been obvious about what I've been saying. But is it wasteful? Is it wasteful? Is it wasteful to have thousands of dollars of games sitting around you? Is it financially irresponsible versus discretionary income? If you can afford it, well, you can make the argument that it's harmless. And if you can't, you can make the argument, like crowdfunding stretch pay situations, that it's self-deception that can be, well, very harmful in that way. Going back to the other thing we talked about, Funko Pops or Steam games on the PC side of things. Why are some allowable as collectors' hobbies, right? Pokemon cards. And why aren't some? Why is digital in this case allowed? You see this all the time. I have a collection of Steam games that I bought on sale in the hundreds. That would be hundreds of thousands of hours, if nothing else. Is this inherently worse because the physical version of it takes up more physical space? I hate this, but I think it's very true. People like myself normalize having this much, right? Like, I don't want this much. I am very blatant about this. If I could sell every game that is not in camera sight, which is probably about, 60% of this room, I would easily do it. I don't want this many games, but it's such a horrible hassle. I can't even necessarily give games away. And I think our review cycle rewards volume over depth. I mean, we have channels that's jobs and MOs to literally try and cover everything as much as possible. Multiple videos a day. I don't think that's positive, but it's buy, don't play culture driven from the video side of things, which is ultimately driven by the marketing, which is driven by the industry and the publishers, which has been dramatically on the rise on a pay to create content side of things over the last 5 years. And we see this reflected with all of the posts after every convention, haul posts, haul videos, right? Large collections in this way are status symbols. It's social media currency to post your shelfie. Is it make you feel more experienced, better? It's braggadocio, as my local radio station would say, right? It's a way of bragging low-key, but also clearly front and center. And this pressure to keep up with the people around you, again, which is why I try and say, don't buy this stuff, don't back this stuff. It creates this artificial backlog that's unnecessary in the first place. I don't think that this hobby is solely addicted to buying things and enjoy screwing people like it's their job, right? I am not that cynical. I'm not going to go that far. And I think that it hasn't aided things. And I think you have to curate. And I hate some of the other stuff that's out there, especially my kids are watching right now these Pokemon pack pullers. It's complete and utter, trash all the time. But again, it's the what gets watched, just like the paid previews on our side of things, right? If no one watched paid previews, no one in the board game industry would pay any channel to do a preview. I agree with this comment that it's not any more ludicrous than the 800 games in their Steam library, played 10% of them. Consumerism's gone nuts. It's true. It's the capitalistic society and the consumeristic society that we live in. You always have to be looking out for more. You always have to get more. Okay, for this point, I actually took my sweatshirt off because you need to see what I'm talking about here. Everybody wants something new and shiny. Your box can't be damaged. You can't wear things until they start to show any signs of wear in the first place, right? You can practically see through this. You could see that this was the shut up and sit down logo on this shirt in the first place. The thing you don't see at the bottom of this sweatshirt is that it's got holes all around the bottom here, right? It's still wearable. It's still usable. I don't need to go out and buy a new one just because I want the new shiny. So we do it with our clothes. I guarantee you have more clothes in your closet than you know what to do with. Are you getting called out for being consumeristic on your clothes when all you need is like maybe 5 different shirts or 7 different shirts? No. Oh, I gotta have the right color of shoes for this and the right pair of pants for this and the right socks for this. I don't see anybody in these comments mentioning this when they're saying that people are being insensible and, wasting money in that regard. I guarantee you have shirts in your closet you haven't worn in over a year. Why are you keeping those around? Oh, that's a waste. Obviously, this hobby attracts sad, lonely people with lots of money. They spend money on games. It feels like maybe they'll get to play them. And they won't, and that's sad. That's life. Their lives are sad enough. Some people just are really, really bitter in this thread. And I think a lot of this also stems from jealousy. This is also the kind of personal attacks that's just completely unnecessary too. There's always someone making this complaint. I've seen it just like this user has. I see it on Board Game Geek. I've seen it on Facebook. I've seen it on other social media. And for some reason, it's always this constant looking over their shoulder. So this post in its own way is very ironic of saying someone else can't have fun the way that I don't think is acceptable. It's a poor analogy, but let's throw out Netflix, right? Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime. Do you have more than one streaming service? Why do you have more than one streaming service? I guarantee you haven't seen all the things on any of those one individual streaming services that you've watched completely all of. Well, why do you need variety then in that way? You're paying extra on an ongoing basis every single month and wasting a lot of money that way for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of stuff that you're never going to get to. It kind of sounds the same though, doesn't it, in a different light? So I've been playing board games for, 12 years. I've been doing this channel for about 4 years. I get sent multiple games a month to cover, to talk about, to consider. So it's a lot easier for companies to send them to me than to me to try and sell them on the secondary market. If you've ever tried selling stuff, right, unless you have a hot, it sometimes, even if it's really well priced, nobody wants it. So are you willing to trash something that you spent money on because you overvalue it, even if you want to get rid of it? And that's another barrier to getting rid of things. And that's also, I think, why you see such inflated numbers. Because like I said, right, I'd be willing to get rid of a lot of these, but it's not as easy as that. And this take definitely ignores that aspect of it too, of saying, I want to get rid of stuff, but I just physically can't except for throwing it away. And sunken cost there, and I hate feeling with that as well. So what do you think? Ridiculous? Just right? Or what side of this debate do you fall on? Because I think you can make a really good case to be on both sides. And definitely, depending on how you feel about things, I don't think there's a wrong side if you take one side or the other, if you have some nuance to it at the same time. The all or nothings on either side, though, that's where I'm going to disagree. Let me know how wrong I am. Peace out. Hit me up in the comments down below. Thanks for watching. Stay classy.